Fireside Tales. Hello, I'm Merlin, Mililli. Welcome to my fireside, where I tell weird tales within tales. And I drink coffee. I drink coffee from my skull mug. Because I'm a deadhead. Tricky sipping and sitting at the same time. Sip and sit. The sip and sit's tricky. So, every week here at Fireside Tales, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead. Because I'm a deadhead, but also because I believe it's a story about reincarnation. And here at Fireside Tales, we discuss reincarnation. I would like my goal with this show. I write the show. It's about me in general and my soul. So I feel the world doesn't completely understand reincarnation, and this show is to help people understand reincarnation more or better. So I tell the story of the Grateful Dead every week, and every week we discuss my book in the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records is a ancient library that you can only get to via meditation. I imagine a spirit could get there. It's a spiritual place. It's not a physical place. It's not some place you take your body. It's sort of metaphysical. And in this ancient library, every soul has a book. And in every soul's book, there is an accounting of where, when, who your soul has been. So, my book in the Akashic Records is big and old and dusty. And in it, it has a watermark. And the lives before the watermark are much longer than the lives after the watermark. The watermark seems to mark when time changed from BC to AD. And then at the beginning of the book, it's all light and dry and sandy. And after the watermark, it's all dark and wet and muddy. And the lives are much shorter after the watermark than the long lives, like unusually long, like thousands of years long lives at the beginning of the book. So I have these threads that link each life in my book to the next, and all of them together. Fire is one of my threads. Fire safety has always been of the utmost importance to my soul. It's really strange, but I live in California now, so fire safety is super important. I have a kettle of water up on my stove, and then I have a sprayer right around the corner, and I have my little water for my smudge stick, which is another thread. And if you have a fire outside, you want to make sure that you choose a spot with no overhanging branches so that nothing can catch fire. Nice clear spot. And then you can look at the stars. And then you want to line the fire pit with stones and make sure there's nothing growing in there. And then you want to make sure you have a bucket of water and a bucket of dirt or sand and a shovel. A water source is nice, but you can't always have that. A bucket of water will do. It could be used water, since you're just going to dump it out like dishwater or something. And soap, a little bit of soap is fine. Even a little bit of bleach won't hurt anything if it's poured on the fire. But you don't want to put any oil or anything like that in the water. You don't want it to be like a soup or anything like that. It has to be water. So, fire safety and smudging and grounding have also been huge parts of my soul. And these are threads that link each life to the next. So I've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years. Having a fire, smudging, grounding, and then I smudge and ground so that I can meditate. I also read tarot and runes. So I smudge and ground before that as well. Smudging cleans your aura, or just outside your body, the aura of your soul, the edge of your soul, if you will. And grounding cleans your insides out. So what you want to do is blow all the negative out. And breathe in positive. And then you think an uber positive thought until you breathe out positive. So you change your breathing from negative to positive. And you'll get the best possible results from your reading, from your meditation. I also smudge and ground before rituals. So from your ritual or your prayer. So fire, fire safety, smudging and grounding, meditating, astral travel is also another thread. Stars, angels, being a psychic medium, and reincarnation. So in every life so far, I've been a psychic medium. So I've been able to speak to spirits. And I spend a lot of time in the spirit realm in this life, and I think I did in others. I didn't know I was a psychic medium for sure in a lot of other lives. Excuse me. But in this one I know, and a few of them I knew. Anyway, the spirits have I used to call it a theory. I don't think it's a theory anymore. They have a thought on reincarnation. Spirits say that people who are reincarnated are also murdered. It's like if you get murdered, it's unfair in the grand scheme of things, so you get to come back and try again. But you don't come back as a zombie or in the same body or anything. You die, and then you come back in a little baby body, and you get to try again as another person. And that's what's being recorded in my book. Now, I tell the story of the Grateful Dead because in my book there is a connection with the band The Grateful Dead. I also have a connection with very early Buddhists. So it's originally a story from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is an old Buddhist text. And the story of the Grateful Dead was listed as a thing in the Funk and Wagnall's dictionary when the band, the Grateful Dead, was looking for a new name. I believe it was 1966. And they were originally called the Warlocks, but the Velvet Underground was going by the Warlocks. No one ended up taking the Warlocks. They both found out that another band had the name the Warlocks, and they decided to both change their names from the Warlocks to other things, the Velvet Underground and the Grateful Dead. So they were a 60s psychedelic band, and now, since Jerry Garcia passed away in 1995, they've been the rest of them have been kind of trying to resurrect different incarnations. Dead and Company being one of the most recent, those shows were really fun. So the story of the Grateful Dead, I'm going to tell it to you as it was told to me by a deadhead, by a fire, as it should be told. I apologize in advance for any commotion exterior that you might hear. I have a crew outside my house working on our telephone poles. And it's garbage day. So I apologize in advance for any weird noises in the background. So here we go. Once there was a traveler. It was so long ago that she traveled by foot. And one day she happened upon a little village where there were some people gathered in a crowd, and they seemed to be squabbling. Traveler got closer, and then she noticed that they were literally squabbling, arguing over a dead body that was laying right there for everyone in the traveler to see. And the people were arguing over who was going to pay his debts and who was going to pay for a burial and who was going to bury him. And the traveler just thought all of it was really disgusting. And so she stopped the villagers and said, no. And she paid the dead man's debts. And she paid for a proper burial. And she prayed over the dead man's grave. And she traveled on. Only to one day, decades later, find herself in a life or death situation in which a stranger just comes out of nowhere, scoops her up, and saves her life. Jesus, thank you. Who are you? Why did you save my life? And the stranger simply says, I am the Grateful Dead. It's a story about reincarnation. Decades later, the man died. Traveler paid his debts. The man remembered that. Remembered the prayers over his body somehow. And when he was reborn in a baby body and grew up, he remembered that he owed that person a debt, and he saved their life to repay his debts to her. It's not a zombie. It's not a corpse. Corpses don't save lives. Zombies don't save lives. It's just not a thing. Reincarnated people save lives. Reincarnation, it's a thing. I trust. I tell you the truth. I trust my book, spirits, intuition. I hope you do too. Because it's real. So, in our first season, we discussed each life in my book, one life per episode, all of them. But 45 minutes was not enough time for the longer lives. And even some of the shorter ones, to be honest. I mean, how do you sum up a life in 45 minutes? It's not easy. So, in our second season, we covered just the first life in my book. And now we are in our third season, and we have been discussing the second life in my book. Last week we discussed that in this second life, I started out as an angel, perhaps even an archangel, because as an angel, I was standing next to Michael, the archangel. So we discussed that part of this particular life, the second one in my book, in detail last week, because that part of this life we've been discussing this season is this life's childhood, because it's the beginning. I was an angel, and then I fell. I took one swing to defend God, and I fell. And I became a cloud bird. And today we are going to cover the culture and time period of this second life in my book. And so this is the weirdest life in my book, because it was almost not a life. I've told you how it was sort of almost an afterlife, right? An angel. But I've also told you how I took that one swing in defending God and I fell from angel to cloud bird. And I lived out most of this particular existence as a cloud bird. So I almost didn't exist. And today, as I said, we are going to discuss the culture and time period of the cloud bird angel hybrid. So this was in the light, dry, sandy part of my book. So it was one of the longer lives. Thousands of years long. The time period was well before recorded history, so in the BC times. And so this was about 6,000 to 8,000 years ago, about 4,000 BC. Now, mind you, I'd already lived one life as a human for thousands of years. So maybe it was still being figured out what happens to you when you die. It was a long time ago. I'm not sure. But so it was about 4,000 BC, give or take 1,000 years or so. And the culture was that of the sky. And it really was. And angel culture was a bit different in that it seemed to exist higher in the sky and there were rules and an hierarchy of sorts. I remember more talk and discussion among the angels. I don't really remember too many other cloud birds. I raised a couple of baby cloud birds and taught them about the sky, but it wasn't like I was a bird because I didn't feed the baby birds. They were cloud. I didn't have to do anything. They didn't come out of eggs. They just were cloud. So anyway, like I said, this was the weirdest of the lives in my book. And I almost didn't exist. So as a cloud bird, most of my life and culture was about the stars and the galaxies and the galaxies movement and the stars movement. So star culture. So stars had been a thread, though, and something that I studied from Earth as a human in my first life. And then I still study stars, but I got a real grasp on the galaxy and like the movement of the whole thing at once and not just our planet. My point of view was literally a bird's eye view of the stars. So that's what I studied. And that's pretty much what I did all day. When I did kind of get bored of the stars, then I actually raised a couple of little cloud birds, like I said. But all I did was teach them about the stars. So it wasn't the same as like raising children, certainly. And I had raised children as a human already. So that's why this life is still. I existed and I came back as a person, and it just was my limbo period, and it was thousands of years. So it's a little crazy. It's sort of it's definitely the weirdest life in my book, I would say. And I'm pretty sure you guys all understand that I had a connection to the Grateful Dead. So it was weirder than that life. So it was pretty weird. But I still carry that knowledge. It went into my soul somewhere, and I still carry the knowledge of the stars. I can look out at the stars from Earth here and just know how certain things are going to unfold because of how the stars have unfolded. Does that make any sense to anyone? I don't know if it does, but it makes sense to me. I can just look up there and see where certain things are in relative or in relation to other things, constellations in relation to other constellations, and what's out and what's not, and what it's something I do, and I don't really know how to explain it. It's just something I know, and I'm sure it's from this life because I studied them for thousands of years from up in the sky. I was thinking the other day that maybe I was a nebula. Maybe I was a star. Like a baby star. It's hard to really know exactly what you are at one point in the grand scheme of things. I mean, humans, you have to wonder sometimes. I know I wonder, what the hell are we? Are we worms? We certainly seem to be parasites. So, every week here at Fireside Tales, I have been singing a song to finish up the show. And I was originally singing Deja Vu by David Crosby because it's the only song I knew really about reincarnation. And I think that's what Deja Vu is about, the song. And then I wrote a song called Reincarnation. I sang it a couple times. And then David Crosby died. So I started singing Deja Vu again because I couldn't not. And I felt sad that I sang a different song, and I kind of felt like I killed him, but I know I didn't kill him. But I know that singing it now doesn't bring him back, but I still feel the need. So until I change how I feel about that, I'm going to sing Deja Vu for you. And I'm going to do that now. If I had ever been here before, I would probably know just what to do. Don't you? If I had ever been here before and another time around the wheel, I would probably know just how to deal with all of you. And I feel like I've been here before. Feel like I've been here before, and you know, it makes me wonder what's going on under the ground. Do you know? Don't you wonder? what's going on down under you. La da da, la da da, la da da, da, la da da da, da, da. We have all been here before. 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 One of these days I'll get that harmonica part right. It seems elusive to me lately. I don't know what happened, but I used to be able to play it. Now I start off breathing wrong, so it comes out wrong. I tried to fix it. It still didn't quite work, but that's okay. Oh, so my fire just seems to be coals, and it's pretty warm here in California right now, so there's a little flame. See a little flame? There's a little flame left. I don't really need the fire today, but it's likely I'll need it tomorrow. Tomorrow it's supposed to rain, but that's not my coffee. This is my coffee. So I guess that's about it for me today. Eventually, I'll let you guys know how I went from barely existing to existing again. I'm not really sure exactly how that happened, so I still have meditative research to do. I like to keep things fresh for you to experience things fresh with me so that I'm not just reiterating the same old stuff. So I don't get bored with it. Mainly it's so I don't get bored with it. I don't want to get bored with you. I hope you don't get bored with me. I think I have flame. The Fireside tales continue. I thought there were a lot of poetic things that came out of this episode, like the culture of the sky and the culture of the stars. I like both. We should pay more attention to our sky from here. It really can give us a lot of information that we don't pay attention to. I've found the stars to really help me in navigating my life and how I want it to turn out. I hope yours all turn out weird and wonderful. And I hope you have a weird and wonderful weekend. Thanks for watching. A Mililli Studios production.